back now to that major Wall Street scandal, the $50 billion fraud charges against former NASDAQ chief Bernie Madoff. The list of Madoff's alleged victims stretches all the way up the financial food chain right around the globe, and that's caught our next guest's attention. He believes this case exposes not just the regulatory problems in the U.S., but in the rest of the world as well. Bill Singer is a securities lawyer in New York. So, Bill Singer, you have more than 20 years' experience as a securities lawyer. Are you surprised by the sheer amount of this alleged fraud?
I wish I could say I am surprised, but to be very honest, I'm not.
Why?
We were waiting for something this big to blow up.
How did it happen?
I think it happened because folks who should have been watching decided it was a good day to go to the beach and figured out that as a regulator, they could trust Mr. Madoff, they could trust the Madoffs of Wall Street, and as such, when nobody's watching and you figure out you can get away with something, you keep trying to get away with it.
But not only wealthy clients, but also international banks suffered big losses in this fraud. What can regulators do to try and wipe out this kind of, or find out about this white-collar crime?
Well, Jackie, that's an excellent question, because in that question is actually the answer. You have to constantly be looking for problems in order to find them. And as we've seen time and time again, the very last person to find out about the fraud is the very self-same regulator that's supposed to be watching for it. You know, in our homes, we don't have fire detectors, we have smoke detectors, because we want to find out about a fire when it's at the stage of smoke, not when the house is burning down. And the problem with the regulation of the world securities markets is that every one of our exchanges is filled up with fire detectors. The regulators are not ahead of the curve, they're not thinking outside of the box, and it's basically the same old failed approaches, which is just making things worse.
But weren't there some hints a few years ago that something was not right with Bernard Madoff, and people just didn't pay attention?
Oh, absolutely. We have many anecdotes, and in fact, we actually have letters that were filed with the United States Securities Exchange Commission in which competitors of Mr. Madoff were complaining. But as the Bible often says, people have eyes and see not, and ears and hear not. And if the regulator won't look and won't listen, all of the complaints in the world are not going to help.
Well, Bernard Madoff is certainly very well known on Wall Street. What's been the reaction to his involvement in this?
I think we're sort of numb on Wall Street at this point. It's as if 2 shoes, 3 shoes, 4 shoes, 5 shoes have dropped. I recognize it's allegedly $50 billion in losses. But the response on Wall Street is almost one of humor at this point. Like, what else is going to happen? A very famous American president, Abraham Lincoln, I think, said it best, which is that it hurts too much to laugh, but I'm too old to cry. And I think that's how Wall Street feels at this point.
And how does this one compare to other big white-collar crimes like Enron and WorldCom?
Well, I think Oscar season's coming up, so perhaps we can give this one an award. It's certainly a huge one. And what's even more frustrating about the Madoff situation is that this involves an iconic figure in Wall Street, in the industry, not just in the issuer community or a listed company. This is one of those situations where a lot of folks really should have known better.
And at the end of the day, though, I mean, how do you fix this, and how do you get people who invest, make them feel they are protected?
Well, I guess the first thing is to acknowledge the problem. We have a crisis of confidence, not just on Wall Street as a geographical location in the United States, but on Wall Street in terms of the world security market. The very first thing we have to do is restore investor confidence worldwide. And I think the way you start is a dramatic international overhaul of the world's regulatory system. We have to be more preemptive. We have to be on the lookout for red flags. And we can no longer accept that the regulation of the world securities market is accomplished by going into a morgue and reading the toe tag on the corpse. It's too late at that point. We need to be more preventative.
Okay, we will watch the story as it unfolds. Bill Singer, thank you so much for this.